Next topic that I choose for prelims is the current technologies for behavioral healthcare clinical practice. Introduction. In today's electronic era, the thought of using only paper in clinical practice is not very high on the behavioral healthcare practitioners' list of ways to be efficient and modern. However, paper has its use for taking notes during sessions as it lends itself more naturally to maintaining eye contact and has less distraction without the clicking noise of the keyboard. Computers today offer many compelling reasons to be utilized in the office setting with easier access to information, transmission of data, and storage. For many practitioners, computer use has primarily been focused on electronic communication, marketing with a website, or creation of documents with office productivity suites. This chapter reviews some of the computer hardware and software that will enhance clinical practice in this digital age. Next is desktop versus laptop. The advantage of desktop computers are quite obvious in terms of higher performance for less cost. Large screens provide ample real estate to view multiple windows to facilitate looking at various aspects of an electronic health record or to be able to send email replies while reading lab results. The standard computing power available today in both laptops and desktops far exceeds the needs of most behavioral health unless viewing magnetic resonance imaging (MRI) from a picture and archiving system (PACS) is a must. But in behavioral health, placement of the computer is important, such that it supplements the encounter frame and does not create a barrier. In this scenario, laptop computers and especially tablets computers have the clear advantage over desktop computers since they are less intrusive in the office setting. Another advantage of a laptop computer is its ease of transport. If the practice has several locations, it may be the best method to assure that records are available. Unless an online-based electronic health record is used. One problem with laptop computers is what to do when the hard drive fails. Regular backup is essential to avoid loss of data. However, laptop computers rarely have a redundant array of inexpensive disks. Set up with desktop computers, this feature is much easier to arrange. In a RAID setup, there are two hard drives where one hard drive is constantly mirroring the other. In the event that one of the hard drives fails, the other drive can take over, decreasing downtime as well as having a direct backup. Laptop computers therefore can best manage their backup with an internet or local network drive-based backup systems that continuously back up critical files in the background. Next is internet security. The best way to avoid intruder access to a wireless network is to use a media access control, address filter on the wireless access point, and router 4. In this setup, the router has a list of known computers, each with a unique MAC address that have been authorized to access the wireless network. Whenever a wireless computer or device attempts to connect to the network, the router checks and grants access only to those devices whose MAC address has permission. In addition, a firewall on the network helps keep intruders out. Antivirus and anti-spyware or malware programs are important for maintaining computer health and function with the hazard encountered via internet. Once installed, this program checks email and file download for viruses, malware, and Trojan software that can hijack your computer for information or to convert it to a zombie that will carry out the instruction from the hacker, such as making multiple requests of a computer server to force it into a crash. In particular, malware is an often challenging program to determine that it will be a nuisance or potential threat to the computer security. Hardware and software security. Data security via log-on keys and encryption should be sufficient for a behavioral health practice. For some users, ultimate peace of mind means doing everything possible to avoid jail time and fines due to HIPAA violations from lost data. When laptop and desktop computers are stolen, they can have the data on their drives destroyed remotely in a secure fashion, thereby providing the penultimate layer of security. Next is backup. The hard drive is the most likely component of the computer to fail. Unfortunately, it is also the most critical component as it contains the OS and the software that run the computer as well as the data. The best backup system is to have a RAID level 1 configuration for mirrored disk content in the desktop computer, as described previously, as very few behavioral healthcare practices can afford much downtime. In this decade of the smartphone, it is much more than just a device to call back your parents. With email, web browsing, medical information, and more, the right smartphone is as good as having a personal assistant. As long as the use of smartphone doesn't interfere with the patient encounter in terms of eye contact and attention, that just-in-time perception of patients contributes to overall satisfaction with the provider. Communication. Today's patient is often technologically savvy enough to use email and web browsing, and many have begun to rely upon email as a common means of communication. The nature of communicating via email, chat is very much different than both a direct encounter and even a phone call. Many contextual cues such as tone, facial expression, and body language are missing, and email is not necessarily the best method of communication, especially in emergency or sensitive matters. That's the end of my discussion.